Hi again, CC2, Ms. Rosales here, and I am going to take you through the more angles notes today. At this point, you should already have the more angles student notes uploaded into Notability and ready to go. So if you don't have that, pause it right here and go get that set up. And as we go, you are just going to follow along in your slides and do what I do. So we're going to learn about a few more different types of angles and then also do some problems together today. So our first new angle that we are going to learn is about complementary angles. So two angles are complementary when they add up to 90 degrees. So here is a depiction of complementary angles. So you have your 90-degree angle, and then you have a side or a leg that is intersecting that angle, making two smaller angles that add up to 90 degrees. So 50 plus 40 equals 90. All right. So these two angles are complementary. Find the missing angle measure. So we've been told they're complementary so that we know that this is a 90-degree angle. And then we have our side here making two smaller angles. One is 52 and one is x. So if we have 90 degrees and take away 52 degrees, that should give us x. Or you could look at it as x plus 52 equals 90. Whichever way you do it, 90 minus 52 or x plus 52, you will get x equals 38. And then these two angles are complementary. Find the missing angle measure. I'm not sure why they picked these numbers, but here's our right angle, and we have 38 degrees. Which we know from the last problem then would make x 52. But I did go through the problem up here. If you took 90 degrees and subtracted the 38 degrees, you would be left with x. So in this case, x would equal 52 degrees. Next up is supplementary angles. Two angles are supplementary when they add up to 180 degrees. Or you'll notice a straight line. Or a straight angle. So here we have our straight angle, and then it is intersected by another side to give us two angles that together equal 180. 105 plus 75 equals 180. So let's try one here together. The two angles are supplementary. Find the missing angle measure. So that tells us that this is 180 degrees. So if we take 180 degrees minus 143, that will give us x. So x equals 37. And then to check your work, you can do 37 plus 143, which is equal to 180. We're going to do another one together. So these two angles are supplementary. Find the missing angle measure. So again, our straight angle of 180 degrees, and we're going to subtract 86, which will leave us with x. So 180 minus 86 equals x. X then is equal to 94. And checking our work, 94 plus 86 does in fact equal 180. All right, next up we have vertical angles. So vertical angles are formed when two straight lines cross at a point. Vertical angles are across the vertex from each other and are congruent. So there's a lot of vocabulary in this definition. So first of all, let's start with our two straight lines. So when two straight lines intersect or cross at a point is when you have a vertical angle. Vertical angles are across the vertex. So the vertex is the point where they cross from each other. So let's find two of those. So vertical angles are across the vertex from one another. So that means D and B would be vertical angles. And then A and C would be vertical angles because they are across the vertex. And they are congruent. So congruent means equivalent. So they're the same size. So that means angle D, say angle D was 30 degrees, that means angle B would also have to be 30 degrees. So looking at a set of lines here that intersect or vertical angles, what are the measures of angle A and angle B? All right, so if we want to find angle B, we need to find the angle that is across the vertex from it. So that would be 33 degrees, and these two should be congruent, which means B would also be 33 degrees. Likewise, for angle A, find the angle it's across the vertex from. So it is across the vertex from 147 degrees, which means A and 147 are congruent, or A is also equal to 147 degrees. So angles at a point. Angles at a point will always add up to 360 degrees. So these are not straight lines intersecting like our last problem, but it is still four sides in this case that all meet at one point, at one vertex. So all of these measures should equal 360 degrees. So if you add up 120 plus 45 plus 110 plus 85, it will equal 360 degrees. All right, let's find the missing angle measure of these angles around a point. So we have 99 plus 90 plus 124. That equals 313. All four of these angles should equal 360. So if we take 360 minus 313, that will give us our X angle here. And when we do that, X equals 47. So angle X equals 47 degrees. And to check your answer, you can add 47 back in to 313, and that does in fact equal 360. Okay, adjacent angles. Adjacent angles share a common side and a common vertex, but do not overlap. So here's an image of adjacent angles. They share a common side and a common vertex, but they do not overlap. So angle ABC, angle A, B, C, and angle CBD, so angle C, C, B, D, are adjacent angles. They share side BC and they share vertex B, but they do not overlap. All right, parallel lines cut by a transversal. So this is what you're mainly going to be working with. All of the angles we've learned up until now are also going to help with this. So this is where all of it kind of comes together. I know it seems like we're going through a lot of information, but this is where it'll all start connecting for you. So we have parallel lines, so two lines that go infinitely in both directions but never cross paths. And then you have your transversal. So transversal is a line that intersects those two parallel lines or cuts through. So when you have parallel lines cut by a transversal, there are several different things that happen. So first off, you end up getting these corresponding angles, and these corresponding angles are congruent. So four angles are formed at each point. So here's a point, here's four angles, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's another point, and here's angle 5, 6, 7, 8. So four angles, excuse me. The angles that are at matching corners are called corresponding angles. So in the top right corner of this point is angle 2. And at the top right corner of this set or point is angle 6. These are corresponding angles. These are congruent, meaning they have the same degree measure. Angle 4 in the bottom left corner, and then if you go to the bottom left corner down here is 8. These are also corresponding angles. So these are also congruent. And there's 4 sets of corresponding angles every time you have parallel lines cut by a transversal. So angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. Angles 3 and angle 7 are also corresponding angles. And all sets are congruent. Next up, you have alternate interior angles. And these are also congruent. So this is why we're taking notes on this. It's a lot of information, but you can use this on anything for the rest of the week. So alternate interior angles are formed inside the parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal. So first of all, let's look inside the parallel lines. So in between the two lines are the interior angles. Alternate means they're on opposite sides of the transversal. So angles 5 and angles 3 are alternate interior angles, and they are congruent, meaning if this angle was 40 degrees, then this angle would be 40 degrees. Likewise, you have angles 4 and angle 6. So they are across the transversal from one another, and they are within the two parallel lines. So this is another set of alternate interior angles, and they also have the same measure. You also have alternate exterior angles. So just what it sounds like, they're formed outside the parallel lines and still on opposite sides of the transversal. So in the top right corner, you have angle 2 on the opposite side of the transversal, but on the exterior side, angle 8, these are alternate exterior angles, and they are congruent. And then you have angle 1 on the other side of the transversal, on the exterior of the parallel line, angle 7, those two are also alternate exterior angles. All right, and then finally we have consecutive interior angles. So alternate means opposite sides. Consecutive means in a row. So in this situation, consecutive interior angles are the two angles inside the parallel lines that are consecutive, one right after the other, right next to each other. So consecutive interior angles are formed inside the parallel lines, and they are on the same side of the transversal. And they are not congruent, but they do add up to 180 degrees. So these two form 180 degrees, or what would be a straight line, which makes sense, right? And then same thing on this side. So inside the parallel lines on the same side of the transversal, these two are consecutive interior angles. Angle 3 plus angle 6 will equal 180 degrees. Okay, last little bit about parallel lines cut by transversals. So the 4 acute angles that are formed when a transversal cuts through parallel lines are congruent. So that means angle 1, angle 3, angle 5, and angle 7 are all the same. The 4 obtuse angles are also congruent. So in this situation, that would be angle 2, angle 4, angle 6, and angle 8 are all congruent, which means they're all the same angle. The acute and the obtuse angles are supplementary to each other. So this acute angle and this obtuse angle are supplementary, meaning they equal 180 degrees, which would make sense because this is a straight line. But that would also work this way. So this acute angle and this obtuse angle would also form a supplementary angle, or 180 degrees. So all the different angles we've learned kind of all come together in this one situation, these parallel lines cut by transversals. All right, so let's try one together. Find the missing angle measures. So we are given angle 85 degrees, and we need to figure out what the rest of these angles measure. So I am going to start with the fact that this angle and this angle equal 180 degrees. They form a supplementary angle. So that means that 180 minus 85 equals angle 2. 100 minus 85 is 95 degrees. So now that we have figured out these two angles, we have all the information we need to figure out the rest of all of these angles. So we can use anything from before. So we have alternate exterior angles, which would make angle 2 and angle 8 congruent. So angle 8 would also be 95 degrees. All right, and then angle 8 and 6 are vertical angles and congruent. So that means angle 6 is going to be 95 degrees. Angle 6 and angle 4 are alternate interior angles. So that means they are congruent. So angle 4 is also 95 degrees. Angle 4 and 3 are supplementary. So this means angle 3 is 85 degrees. And then angle 3 and 5 are alternate interior angles. Angle 5 and 7 are vertical angles, which means that they are all also